Welcome to Everyday Linux User. In today's video, I'm going to be comparing the Gnome desktop with the KDE desktop environments within Linux. Now, on my screen, you can see the Gnome desktop, and I've left it in a fairly vanilla fashion. So this is what you get out of the tin. And the way you navigate Gnome, you can go up here in the left corner and you get a list of windows that are open, and you can switch workspaces if you so wish. If you want to see your applications, you have to press the Windows key, but not just the Windows key, it has to be the Windows and A key to bring up the applications screen. And you can block off your applications into these nice little boxes like this, in the same way you do Android. So you can have them spread out all across the screen, or you can group them as I have here. If you want to search for an application, you can do so here. Just type LibreOffice, for instance, or LibreWolf for the web browser in my case. And if you want a music player, you can just type search music and it'll give you the default music player or any other music players that are installed, and it gives you suggestions for more software and things like that. So navigating Gnome is relatively straightforward, and I've got a video showing you how to customize Gnome and make it the way you want it to, but this is the Gnome desktop environment. So for traditional Windows users, the Gnome desktop environment may seem a little bit of a learning curve when you first start, but it's actually really straightforward. And once you get used to it, you'll probably prefer this to the old traditional method of loading applications. But you can make your life easier. And the way you make your life easier is by using Gnome tweaks and Gnome extensions, which are two Gnome applications that enable you to customize your desktop. Now, I'm going to turn on some extensions here, and you'll see this will make the system a lot easier from the get-go. So if I press Windows and A and I type in extensions, you can see I've got all my extensions turned off. But if I go like this, it turns all my extensions on. Don't need caffeine on at this moment in time. But you can see I've now got a dock at the bottom of the screen. I've got a menu in the top left corner, so I can get to my most useful applications first, like this. I can show my apps easier because there's now a click on the screen to do that. So that makes it all the more usable. And we can also get around the system up here. We can get to the app grid. We can get to the software center, we can get system monitor terminal and extensions. So GNOME extensions enables you to add things in that aren't part of the initial GNOME install, and it's up to you to build up as you see fit. Now, obviously there's a trade-off here. The more extensions you install, the more resources you are using. And GNOME in the past hasn't been a lightweight desktop environment, but I did show you in a previous video how you can make GNOME run in about 700 megabytes of RAM. So it doesn't have to be heavy if you don't want it to. So as a desktop environment, it's really easy to use. We've got things like window snapping, as we've got here, and you can see my little bar at the bottom disappears depending on what I'm using. So if I have LibreOffice Writer over here, I can snap that to the right like that. So we can have window snapping. Now I can move these apps to a different workspace. If I press Alt and A like this, I can drag this one over here onto there. And if I want to, I can add this one over here like that. And if I want to open this in a workspace, you can see I can drag it onto a workspace and that now appears. If I want to switch workspaces, I can use keyboard shortcuts, and GNOME is very heavily keyboard driven. If I want to move this application to another workspace, I press Ctrl, Alt, Shift and the right arrow, and that's it in a different workspace. If I want to just go back to the other workspace without moving the app, I can press Ctrl Alt Left, and you can see I've got my terminal there. So I can have my terminal full screen there. And I can go here, I can have this one full screen here. If I go to the right again, I've got a completely blank workspace. So you can see you can build up workspaces and have different applications on each workspaces, and it's keyboard driven. So you can make it work to the keys that you want it to. Now, doing things like connecting to the Wi-Fi, etc. If you go up here, you've got Wi-Fi here, you've got Bluetooth here. You can change between dark and light mode. If you want to change your wallpaper, right click, change background. It's as simple as that, and you can pick from the different settings. And whilst we're in the settings screen, here are all the GNOME settings you can set. So you can set your Wi-Fi, network, Bluetooth, displays, power settings. You can choose which are your default apps for different applications. So for instance, my web browser's LibreWolf, my mail program's Evolution, my video plays Gnome videos. Now, Gnome comes with its own default set of applications. So if we look, for instance, at the Files menu, this is called Nautilus, and this is the way you navigate around Gnome. Very fully featured, and there's a lot to it, but for navigating your system, it's perfectly easy. You just click into the folder, and that's all you have to do, like that. And you can drag and drop files, and I've got a full video showing how the Nautilus file manager works if you want to check that out. Gnome videos I've never found overly useful. It does play local videos okay, but I do find that I prefer VLC, and that's the same with KDE. I would use VLC with KDE as well. We've also got Gnome Music for listening to music. There's Evolution as a mail client, and this is probably my favorite mail client on Linux. If I'm going to use a mail client, generally I've got to say I probably mainly use just the web browser if I'm using that, or I use my phone for mail really. But you can import your Google Mail into here and it will work, and your Hotmail or whatever mail service you use, it will probably work within Evolution, and it's fairly Outlook-esque. So once you have it running, it kind of works like Outlook. The alternatives to Evolution would be Thunderbird. So Gnome also has its own terminal, as you've seen before. And so when you think about a desktop environment, you think of how it looks and feels, but a desktop environment is more than just how it looks and feels. It's how it looks and feels. It's the window manager, it's the display manager for logging in. It is the applications that come with it, like the file manager, the terminal, any other extras that come along with it. And Gnome is pretty decent. And who's it for? I think it's actually for everyone, but you've got to appreciate a different workflow to Windows. I do recommend installing some of these extensions. It would make your life easier, but in general, Gnome is a very good desktop environment. Probably not for the oldest of old machines, because even though I have got it running 700 megabytes of RAM, there are probably lighter weight desktop environments that will work even better on really old machines. So one thing I haven't shown you yet is the Gnome Software Manager. Now if I click here, you can see this is the Gnome Software Manager, and I can set up my repositories here. And you can see I've got FlatHub installed, but it's not as straightforward to install FlatHub as it is on KDE, which I'll show you shortly. The other thing about Gnome Software Manager is that it's a little bit slow moving. Now, you can find all the applications you need, so if I want Spotify, you can see Spotify's there, and the same for Steam and Chrome, etc. But it is a lot heavier in resource and it's slower than using KDE Discover. So now what we're going to do is we're going to switch over to the KDE side. So here we are in the KDE Plasma version of OpenSUSE, and you can see it's a very different look and feel to the GNOME one. Now what we have here is a more traditional looking desktop environment. So if you're coming from a Windows background, especially Windows 10, and prior to that Windows 7, we'll ignore Windows 8 because that was rubbish, and Vista and XP, and before that, then this is the look and feel that you would expect, and to a certain degree Windows 11 kind of follows the same thing, except this bar is obviously a lot shorter. Now the settings for things like Wi-Fi are all down here in the bottom right corner, as you'd expect them to be. Bluetooth's here, and you've got a clipboard manager, your audio, so everything's where you'd expect it to be. And down in the left corner we have a menu system, and so it's a more traditional looking menu system. You've got categories down the left, and for each category you've got the applications that fall into that category, and you can search by typing in here. And because I've just installed this OpenSUSE for KDE, you can see I've got the Firefox web browser, not the LibreWolf one. So KDE Plasma, very simple to get up and running with, especially if you come from a Windows background. Now, as with GNOME, changing things like the desktop wallpaper, fairly straightforward. Right click, desktop and wallpaper, and you get a list of wallpapers. Look at the OpenSUSE default one, very bright. But the thing that KDE gives you is this get new option. So if I want to install a new wallpaper, rather than going onto the internet and downloading one and finding one, I can just go in here and I can search for different wallpapers. So for instance, I could go for that one, kittens, etc. So let's try this one. And all you have to do is click install, click use, and that's it. So KDE, fairly easy to style and make it the way you want it to. But this is one I found earlier and I quite like this one. So you've got this settings icon down here. So this is how you configure your KDE, and I've got a guide showing how to configure KDE desktop. So I will include that here. But much like the GNOME one, you've got this list of categories down here. So you've got keyboard for setting your keyboard layouts, and you've got keyboard shortcuts for setting a different shortcut for different things. So Meta and E. So Meta is your Windows key, and E will bring up Dolphin. And that Dolphin is the file manager that comes with KDE. Now, I've compared Dolphin with Nautilus previously, and I've got a guide for both of them. I find Nautilus instantly easier to use, but I would say Dolphin is more fully featured. So if you're on the GNOME desktop, for 80% of the users, 90% of the users, I think you'll find Nautilus is just a little bit more intuitive, but for those extra features that you might want, Dolphin with KDE is probably slightly better. It's a strand of hair between them though, as to which one is the best. Personally, I do prefer Nautilus. I don't need all the extra features that Dolphin gives you, but I can easily get around with Dolphin as well. And so for most people, just clicking into the categories, dragging and dropping, copying, pasting, it's all fairly straightforward and what you're kind of used to. It's when you get into the nitty-gritty of doing extra things within the file manager that you'll notice some quirks such as connecting to networks, etc. Now, one place that KDE does excel over GNOME is the software manager. Now, one thing to say about the GNOME software manager, it's quite slow. It's slow loading, it's quite heavy on resource. It does enable you to search around and find the applications you need, but it is a lot slower than the KDE one. And I think this is the prime KDE tool. It's called KDE Discover. And instantly, the thing that sets KDE Discover apart from GNOME, if I want to install Flatpaks using GNOME, I generally have to go on to the Flatpak org setup screen and follow the instructions for setting it up. Where in Discover, I can just go in here and it lets you add your source. And when you first come in here, you can see I've got FlatHub enabled. It says add FlatHub. And all you have to do is click add FlatHub, and you've then got access to all the applications within FlatHub. So what does that mean? That means you can get to things like Spotify and all the other containerized apps like Steam and Chrome and a whole host of applications just by a click of a button. And that for me sets it instantly apart from GNOME when it comes to installing and setting up software. I mean, it's a simple button to add. I don't understand why GNOME can't just add the same button in, but this is definitely a feature that's useful. When it comes to native applications for KDE, you saw with GNOME we had native applications for videos, for audio, for file managers, and you've seen the Dolphin file manager. Then with KDE, there's a whole host of applications. Some of them good, some of them bad. Now I've installed OpenSUSE, so you're not going to see all of the KDE applications here, but you've got Contact, which is a contact manager. Console is the terminal emulator. Not quite as pretty as the GNOME equivalent, but it does the job. You've got a address book, you've got a mail program called Kmail, not as good as Evolution, but if I was using a native mail client, then I'd probably install Thunderbird as opposed to Kmail. You've got an organization program. One thing that KDE comes with out of the box that you can get is called KDE Connect, and that enables you to connect your phone to your computer and do that. And another premium application that comes with KDE, that's part of the KDE suite, is Kdenlive, and that's a video editor. Now, obviously, that's not for everyone, but Kdenlive is the video application I would use for creating videos on Linux. It doesn't matter which desktop environment I'm in. Now, it's mainly based on KDE, but if you use the Flatpak, then you can use it in GNOME as well. There are video editors for GNOME, but I just don't find them all that useful. We're talking things like OpenShot and Shotcut. I just don't find them intuitive, and I've tried creating videos with them, and it just isn't the same. Kdenlive is the boss when it comes to video editing within Linux. Customization, well, you can customize these panels, and I've got a video showing how to customize the KDE desktop environment. So we can click on show panel configuration, for instance, and it lets you change things. So if I want to change my alignment, for instance, I can do that. I can set the position, I can do the fill width. So if I do that, you can see my bar goes just to fit the content. Or you can fill the width, or you can set a custom one. You can choose whether it's floating or not. You can change the panel height, shortcuts, and you can add other panels in. So I could do clone panel, and you can choose where to put it. So I can put it at the top, like that. And now we've got a clone panel, and we can therefore make the top panel what we want, and on the bottom we can make it a dock. So now you can see I've changed it around a bit. At the bottom we've got a more quick launch bar type thing, and at the top we've got the menu, and we've got the system tray at the top. And if I click here, you can see I've got a full screen dash type thing going on, and it's just a case of adding new widgets in, and you can customize the KDE desktop the way you want it to look. You can see here you can snap windows, you can unsnap them, you can make them larger like this, but I wouldn't say the snapping is as smooth as it is with GNOME. But one thing you have with KDE that you don't have with GNOME is desktop icons. Now you can install extensions to add desktop icons to GNOME, but by default KDE gives you the desktop icons. So that's another thing that might fall in the favour of KDE. So ultimately, GNOME versus KDE. KDE is for people that more like the traditional desktop, like the Windows look and feel, but you can see you can customize it to make it look the way you want it to, and so you can make it more GNOME-esque if you want it to look that way. In the same way, if you're using the GNOME desktop environment, it's a more modern look and feel, but once you get used to it, it works really, really well. And so for me, either of them are perfectly useful for the everyday Linux user. It's a case of trying both of them out and seeing which one works for you the best. But hopefully this video has given you a highlight of which one you might want to start with first. And that is the end of the video. If you like it, give a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you next time on Everyday Linux User.